We're live, at least as far as I can tell. Hello, welcome everyone. I'm finally back. Finally back with another wind farming stream. If you've been wondering where in the world these streams have been, I sadly got sick for a bit with the good old Rona, but we're okay. And we're ready to stream again. Starting off today with the first battle, it's going to be up against the High Elves. Surprise, surprise! It's we're playing as Beastmen up against Turn as per usual. Actually, a lot of the games today are up against Turn, so very exciting. And as long as everything goes well, we should get some pretty nice wins. There's our win-loss counter of last stream. And there we go, everything's set up. Let's dive on into the action. First of all, I guess I might as well say hi to everybody. If the audio balancing is good, let me know. Let's see. Hoping to see some other legendary heroes in action. Other legendary heroes, that would be cool. How are the crops looking? Well, we planted the seeds, I guess. But yeah, right now it's, for my lore of magic, I've brought the Pit of Shades. Sorry, I might be like half dying today. Anyways, yeah, we've brought Pit of Shades, and we're gonna cast that right on the Dragon Princes. It's one of the strongest spells in the game right now. Would highly recommend. As you can see, it staggers the cavalry that are caught up in it, and it's gonna be doing a lot of damage. Gets us all the way to like 1,600 gold. Man, is it just me or is this quiet? I can barely hear the game right now. Please, somebody let me know. Let me know, and I will get it fixed. Am I blessed with Nurgle? I got a little bit of a Nurgle's blessing, yeah. It's quiet? Okay, it's not just me then. I'll just boost it up. There we go. That should be a little bit better. But yeah, for Turin, he's basically bought a double mobility cavalry build. Or double single entity cavalry build. So he has the Lariat and the Phoenix. Which is generally pretty hard for Beastmen to deal with. But as for the cavalry, we're mostly fine here. Game sounds low. Does it still sound low? I gave it a bit of a boost. More boosting. Oh boy. Let's see. What if I go over here and add a filter to it? Like I can boost the gain by 1,000,000 if that's what you guys really want. There we go. Now it's a little bit loud. Or it's loud enough for me to comfortably hear. Hopefully it's the same with you guys. We're gonna be throwing down another Pit of Shades. This game I'm mostly just gonna gloss over in terms of strats, since we're sort of just saying hello to chat right now. It has been a while, guys. It's been a while. Do you think Pit of Shades will be nerfed by the time Immortal Empires releases? I'm sort of conflicted about that. When it comes to Pit of Shades, it's sort of, hey, we got some Twitch viewers going on. I'm sorry, I can barely see your name because it's purple on blue, but yeah, Pit of Shades I'm really conflicted about, mostly because it's actually not as strong as many of the other strong spells. It's fairly even compared to like Dwellers Below or any amount of healing spell. Less efficient than Stream of Corruption too. So if you nerf Pit of Shades, I think the only thing that happens is people will just stop taking the lore of Shadows, and then they'll just take more of the same other lores. So it's a bit of a weird situation. I feel like if you do make a nerf, it does have to be across the board. Otherwise, you'll just sort of see that effect. Although Shadows is a very general lore, so maybe it should be nerfed. I don't know. How's Beastmen compared to Game 3 factions? Fairly strong. If you haven't seen the stream that I did with Turin, it was, we rated Beastmen like A tier, I believe. Just because they do have crazy Vanguard and really strong cavalry, so I would say they're in a pretty happy place right now. Finally able to catch a stream again. It's been a while since we've last streamed. How do you feel about Talons with Cathay in comparison? It's roughly the same, right? It's just a bit more expensive. I think Talons of the Night is basically the same as Pit of Shades. in terms of tier. It's just that Cathay doesn't really have the units of the other factions, unfortunately. As for this actual battle, we've actually managed to surround his lord, by the way. If you take a look at the top side, Alariel and the Phoenix, unfortunately, now that they're grounded and stuck in the forest, they will be suffering the penalties of that. And trees will be getting in the way, which is a pretty bad time for them. This is one of the main strengths of Beastmen. They can really, really abuse any misplays you do with your single entities, just by surrounding them and having a ton of mass. Excited for the new Chaos units? Oh yeah, the Chaos. Chaos unit's gonna be great today. Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be the age of Chaos. What we have, like Nurgle, Chaos, like Warriors of Chaos, and Beastmen all being very strong. Slanesh too. I think one of the weakest Chaos factions though, funnily enough, is I'd say is probably the Demons of Chaos. They feel pretty weak. I tried them out in a domination game the other day. I don't know what I rated them, but I feel like they're probably D tier, even with Be'lakor. Simply because they have like no good infantry. They're sort of like Beastmen, except, well, actually, yeah, they're just like Beastmen, where they have like good cavalry but no infantry. But the problem is, I think their mobility may even be worse than Beastmen, sadly. We'll see, we'll see. Surely Norska is the weakest Chaos faction? That's true. That's true, Norska might be weaker. It really depends on how strong Skin Wolves are, though. Skin Wolves might be able to do it. Shibu asking where's my sub button. Oh, if only. Unfortunately, Twitch has something against me streaming on YouTube, so we can only be on Twitch as a non-monetary way. Is Immortal Empires already out? It isn't. This is a replay. We're just here doing the pre-release promotion for Creative Assembly, as they have so generously given me a key. Soon enough, though. Soon enough. I think it's like, what? In about a month? Well, yeah, definitely in a month we should have Immortal Empires. Very exciting. This game, by the way, we've more or less won it. You can see Beastmen are absolutely vicious here. The poor High Elves. I feel like mass cavalry is just not the way to go with them. I think you really want to lean into Sword Masters and Phoenix Guard if you want to do well. Especially in this matchup, Beastmen will basically just dominate you in the mobility fight. You'll also notice I have a Doom Bull instead of Torox. The reason we have the Doom Bull is because he has really good, well, he doesn't have fire damage, there we go. Because Torox does have fire damage, which actually makes him do less damage to Phoenixes. Fun fact, fun fact. Enticity saw your vid with boosting leadership. Hey, nice. Is there a way to make a Throg troll build viable? I would say maybe. You know, you need to get Throg, you get your Mammoth. Throg does have the Unbreakable crown, which is very nice. So I'd probably just go with that. You give them like about 60 leadership, so your trolls will basically be ogres. And in that sense, that's not too bad, but it's not like magnificent. You could probably make it work though. Is this live? I'm live. This is not. I get this question asked every stream. But alright. Game number 1 done. We're going to be settling in for a triple cap. We're up like 4,000 value. And then with the next game, we can actually start casting and talking about some strats. But yeah, I think Beastmen definitely. The build that I have now is pretty nice. You got like a million. Oh, hey, Shiva. Shiva, welcome. I see you've become a member. Let's see. Do I get a notification for that? I'm not sure I do. I might have to open up a separate tab. 1 second. But yeah, Beastmen, generally, I basically took like a no infantry build, and it's more or less working out. Yeah, Shiva, I'm totally saying your name wrong, aren't I? Shiva, with the deckhand. Thank you very much. I'm just a figment of your imagination. So true. But yeah, actually, I would say like the chariots are really strong for the Beastmen. Something that you might not realize. They're actually anti everything. They got really nice armor piercing. Also, that transition, sick transition. Look at me putting in the editing hours to make sure that it's a little bit less abrupt, even though it definitely still is. And Herman Cruel, thank you very much for the €5. Thanks, meme builds forever. You guys. You know, I meme so little, but I love theory crafting them. Now, here we go. I'll catch up with Chad in a second. This match, oh hey, this match you might have seen on Turin's channel. If you haven't, check him out at YouTube/Turin. We got ourselves a double Rogue Idol build. Very exciting today. This time we're going to be seeing it from my perspective. And the general idea of this build, a lot of people would say the Rogue Idols are a meme. In this case, as you might have heard from the earlier stream, I genuinely think Rogue Idols are not a meme when it comes to actual when it comes to domination, simply because they are extremely good at clearing infantry, which is a very common thing you see. Ranged is a much less common, which is obviously one of the main counters to them, and they can sort of just sit on the point with full capture weight, essentially unmoving the entire battle and just slowly taking over the point. Really nice just HP in general. It's just such a waste of time to kill them even with halberds. And of course we have Grom here, the ever meta pick to hopefully well, I don't really have too many plans with him. Mostly just clearing infantry. I think he can technically be good against Furies too, but he has a hard time actually being where he needs to be. On this map also, I think one of the very big metas is going to be using skirmishers to pressure that left point. Point number 3, as usually, if you can get your opponent to put infantry there, they're going to be down like maybe 800 gold as we see turn. And then if you rotate your skirmishers onto point 1, it lets you push to point 2 with just more value. So it's pretty good. I think mobility is going to be very strong here. And as the battle gets underway, we're going to be throwing Grom at some Flesh Hounds. I wanted to see generally how well he traded there. And overall, I would say he does pretty well for himself. In general, I would say it's like a little bit sketchy though. You definitely need an escape plan after Lucky Banner runs out. As the fighting over there actually gets underway, the Furies are going to be landing. But fun fact about Furies, they have an awful time actually chasing units. So as long as you sort of keep moving away from them, they generally won't do too much damage. And Bubba's big blast with the 5 USD. Thank you so much. You guys are so generous today. Do the C-ish tier factions need buffs? Or do the S tier factions need nerfs? I would say S tier factions could probably be nerfed. I think we don't want like any amount of power creep to really latch on, and all of the strongest factions right now are like performing quite a bit stronger than you would expect, I think. So but like, you know, if you just like for Slanesh, if you just nerf their Marauders or something, it should be fine. Buffing all of the other factions seems like it would be a pretty hard task. But I don't know, whatever gets us the most fun gameplay, really. Any Gelt games incoming by chance? I can see why you're asking that question with that profile picture. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of Gelt, sadly. So we don't really have too much action from that side. But yeah, as you can see here, we're just sort of focusing as Lord. And actually, an interesting thing that most people get wrong about domination, it's that they focus a bit too much on capture points. The capture points are generally a lot less important than you might think. Also, praise the squig herds. They cost 300 gold now, so they're actually insane. But yeah, a lot of people really like going for the for capture points and sort of spreading themselves in, taking less efficient fights. But in domination, having a larger army than your opponent is so important. I would probably prioritize purely trading and holding 1 point for at least 5 minutes. You don't really need to be much more aggressive than that. And like right now, you know, I could have like this force here, sort of trying to rush point 3 to try and capture it. But instead, I'm just doing a very safe play and focusing down his Lord. And that should be giving me a pretty nice lead. As for the stone trolls, Turin has spread himself a little bit thin, so I'm going to be moving forwards as I have way more money invested over there. And the Nasty Skulker is actually really nice for shutting down the dogs on the flank. Their slow is amazing for catching units. Yeah, squigs are 800 or 300 gold now. It's insane. It's crazy. So like, if you take 3 squig herd against like blood knights, they'll kill the blood knights. It's actually insane. The only downside is that if they're losing in combat, they'll rout pretty easily. But other than that, I would like almost always take 4 of them. I think. Even trying to make them viable forever. Well, I think they're pretty viable now. Maybe even OP, but that's yet to be seen. All right, now for this point, one of the great things about the rogue idols, as you can see, they have really nice capture weight. For those of you unaware, single entities do have full capture weight even if they're damaged, because it's purely on an entity-based system. And that's going to be helping us a lot over there for capturing that point. And you can see even with the fairly slow push out, capturing that point at around maybe like the 6 or 7 minute mark, we're still going to be winning the game in time off a 2-point hold. You can see in the top middle, as long as we capture it before 2,500, we're definitely safe. But since I have 1,000 points already banked, the threshold's actually 3,000 victory tickets. So we actually have quite a bit of leeway here, despite waiting and focusing on the value trading. And the value trading has paid off well. We're up 1,700 gold now. Huge value. And for the rogue idols, they are actually getting held up a little bit. Though I'm not actually particularly worried in this situation, as, oh yeah, I forgot we have a win. I forgot to update the score. There we go. But yeah, we're not particularly worried here, since I have sort of pressure to capture both points at the same time. And if we're actually gearing up to triple cap, it means we can sort of just focus on doing that. And as long as we triple cap before the end of the battle, we should be fine. Enticity isn't Morkin time yet. Yeah, I think we're Morkin right now. Perhaps Gorkin. Man, that meme, I don't even know how it got created. I gotta look that up one day. Like, I obviously know the movie, but I don't know. I don't even know how. Anyways, for the actual battle, the rogue idol still doing amazingly over there in the distance. And for the skirmishers, the great thing about greenskin skirmishers, they have full capture weight. So after they're done using all of their ammunition, I highly recommend leaving them around just to be able to steal points very easily. Enticity. So to counter the double rogue idol, is 1 bloodthirster sufficient? I'm not entirely sure. I think you might want to do an avoidance type game rather than fighting the rogue idols head on. The thing about domination is that even if you can kill very tanky large targets, if it takes so long to clear them out, it actually ends up not being worth it, since in domination time is fairly valuable. So while a bloodthirster can kill them over the course of, say, 8 minutes, it means that the bloodthirster isn't really doing anything else. It's almost fully occupied against them, plus you need infantry support, plus the infantry is taking damage, plus the bloodthirster is taking damage. Greenskins are basically very happy to take any fight as long as a rogue idol is involved. Yeah, no Grimgore. I feel like the mobility of Grom just helps a little bit too much. Is the big gun viable? I would say probably. I'd be happy to run it. But there we go. There's our triple cap. We got all 3 points with about with like what, 4 minutes to spare. Pretty comfortable. Actually closer to 3 minutes, but with a value lead and a triple cap, we basically have nothing to fear. We can just keep spamming out units, and we're good to go. What's this? Morbius had a trans. Well, okay, yeah, I obviously know about the Morbius. I've seen enough of the meme. But anyways, let's see. Unless you're just talking to someone else. AI, the rogue idol's basically distraction. well, it's a distraction current effects. It's dangerous enough that you want to kill them, but tough enough that you usually shouldn't bother. Yeah, and actually I've sort of found it was the same thing with, oh, what's his face? It feels sort of the same with the Be'lakor, actually. Despite how strong Be'lakor is, he might actually not be as good as I think, or as I thought before. Be'lakor ends up sort of being a very large, very expensive rogue idol that people can ignore easier. So I feel like he might actually not be that great in domination. Yeah, that's right. We're streaming to Twitch and YouTube, though primarily I'm keeping up with the YouTube side of things. But yeah, for this game, I think we're good, right? I think we're good. Turin's trying to throw in a lot of units. I think he's trying to snipe out Grom, which would actually be a pretty nice pick. But the main problem here is that we've actually gained a value lead over him. So if he did ever manage to start winning in terms of trading, we'd mostly be able to just win off a 2 capture point here. At this point, he has like a minute to seal one of the points too. And generally, for any capture point, it takes at least a minute to take it over, which means we're basically won it, which is pretty nice. I think the rogue idols are pretty good. Turin actually taps out there, perfect timing, and that's going to be the second win. Very nice. But game number 3, Empire time up against Slaanesh. Now this one should be interesting. Like Turin is here? What do you mean by like Turin is here? Are Dread Saurians viable? Not as, I don't know. Maybe as viable as a big gun. I think you can only take one Dread Saurian though, which is a bit of a shame. So they can't actually support each other. But I would say they're decently viable, yeah. Only problem is that the Lizardman roster is a little bit thin. So you might have to only take them in like you have to bring a lot of chaff. And I don't think the Lizardman roster have a lot of really great chaff that you want to throw in. So it's a bit harder to sink so much money into Saurians. But I don't know, maybe you take like 2 of the cheaper ones. But I don't know, they also route, so who knows, maybe against Khorne. As for my build today, we're going to be bringing in a light wizard here. He has the Shem's Burning Gaze. The plan was to snipe out Turin's caster / lord, but in this case he actually has Sigvald, which is very scary for me. I don't know how many plans I actually had for him. I think the general idea was I would just ignore him. And over here we're demonstrating a very similar strategy to last time. I'm going to skirmish over here at point number 3, and the plan is to rotate back to my main army to help sort of get a strong fight over there, while his marauders are all distracted on the flank. He also sends Furies at my wizard and Boris. This is a very good trade for me, since Boris is healing on up. And the wizard doesn't really mind taking HP damage. He can basically just sit in the sky the entire game. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about my odds here. Unfortunately, value trading, there we go, jumps up to 476 as the Furies die. Is it Todd in time? Jeez, guys. Chat with the one meme today. And over here on the flank side, it's pretty good. Now, Sigvald is charging towards me, beelining it even, which is quite scary. But the Pistoliers have done amazingly on the flank, and this is actually a really nice position for me. I have a ton of time to get more value too. We're going to net his caster to try and get her killed early on. We've saved just enough Winds of Magic to overcast Shems. And now we're going to try and goon out Sigvald. Now, he will be surrounded and like charged by Boris, but as I'm sort of lining that up, I notice that my knights are completely out of position on the flank, and this is devastating for me. They get charged by Seekers of Slaanesh, and what was once a pretty good position where trading was going well, it's gonna be pretty bad. We're sort of lined up to lose 2 knights here. I send Boris onto Sigvald though, and we're going to see if we can take him out. And Turin goes in for the kill. He's going to be charging forwards with his marauders. Over on the flank side, I'm trying to salvage a terrible situation by pulling my Pistoliers in to try and kill off his cavalry, but it's not really going too well. You can see the value trading leaving my grasp as the battle goes on. Free Company Militia are just going to be getting in some flank shots. You can, if you position correctly, your militia will be able to fire and be in combat behind them at the same time. Really nice strategy. I use this a ton playing as a Vampire Coast, but there's a bit of a problem here. I decided to try and kill Sigvald early on, and as you can see, Empire Cav is just way too slow. Actually, they got buffed in speed. They're 77 speed now, but as you can see, Sigvald is sort of wrecking my face here. I basically sent Boris in on top of him. Sigvald has taken no damage and Boris has taken a quarter HP. Essentially, I've wasted the entirety of Boris there for the last like minute or so trying to kill Sigvald, where he could have been cycle charging Marauders instead. He could have been trying to snipe the caster, and now things are looking pretty bad. Although the trading is still fairly even despite all of that, our early game trading still paying dividends here. But as you can see in the top left corner, many of my units are routing off, and without a proper front line, things are going to be scary for my Huntsman. Now the Shems finally finishes off his Lord, thankfully. Will she die before the Pit of Shades goes off? No, Pit of Shades will go down, and devastating damage against Free Company. Strangely enough, they have less HP than any other human unit in the game. No idea why, but that's just how it is. And over here, because Turin had committed so much on the far point, we do actually have a little bit of a fairly larger force here, and we will be able to pull back the scraps against the Marauders. But here's the problem. Turin was actually the aggressor here, which means that he's been gathering points, victory tickets the entire battle so far, and we've sort of just been trying to barely scrape back this situation. He has insanely strong cavalry too, and me trying to summon the St. Louis Reichsguard. There we go. They're coming on in, and they're going to be trying to clear out the cavalry. But in general, Slaanesh usually just dominates the cavalry battle here. I'm going to need some sort of overwhelming force, maybe a whole ton of Paciliers, but if Turin wants to, he can more or less keep summoning cavalry if he wants. Yes, Slaanesh wills it indeed. Trying to kill Slaanesh's favorite son is a mistake that will cost you this match. Yeah, really, man. It was a really bad idea. Honestly, I would say, rule of thumb, similar to how you should never ever try to kill the flying big birds of Tzeentch, you should probably never try and kill Sigvald, especially in domination, as he will bait. He's just not gonna die. He has really, really nice AoE debuffs. He has extremely high regeneration, higher than many other units in the game. Although I guess many regen units did get buffed recently, but nevertheless, Sigvald, he takes like almost an entire battle to kill. So you need like at least 2 units, 2 heroes if you want to kill him. Hey, O-Town Fighter, thank you very much for the 5 USD. Or the 4.99 USD. Is a way to make left alt right mouse button revert to how it worked in Warhammer 2. The troops should face the direction of the mouse pointer. Now they don't. I'm not sure what you mean there. I don't know if alt right mouse button. Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really used that feature, so no idea, man. But you can sort of sift through the hotkey settings. There might be something there, but I know there's like a set of specific hotkeys that you just can't change, unfortunately. So you'll have to investigate that section. Unfortunately, I cannot help you though. But if anyone in chat knows about it, feel free to let them know. Now, for the battle, by the way, back into the battle, you can see that generally against Furies, we can trade decently well. Overall, Furies trade really well, but if they usually trade slightly down in from what I found, unless it's a really nice situation for them. So as long as you can defend against them, it's a nice way to sort of catch back up on value, but Turin doesn't really care about value right now, and he was using the Furies more strategically instead to actually stop my mobility from moving forwards. And this is a very nice strategy, sort of constantly blocking me once you're up in value, as long as he's able to maintain point number 2 long enough, he gets closer and closer to triple cap territory. And as it stands right now, it looks like that will be the case. Boris sort of stuck fighting Sigvald a little bit longer too, taking some more damage. And as it stands right now, it's looking pretty sketchy. A lot of the range units on the flank are sort of just trading evenly with Slaanesh, but Turin is he's doing a really good job commanding where the fights are happening and really stopping me from getting to point number 2. We could also see the mistake of losing all my pistoliers earlier is going to come into play, where generally they'd be out of ammunition now, but they would be able to capture that point really quickly, maybe harass point number 3. But the misplays are going to be hurting me quite a bit here. I believe I net down Sigvald just to make him sort of stay away from my forces. Probably would have been better to net reinforcing units, but regardless, at this point, the battle is looking pretty bleak. Despite trading very well on that far point, it's gone to the phase of the battle where trading is much less useful, and it's all about capture points now. I need to get capture point number 2 as soon as possible, and if I manage to take it immediately, then I have 2 minutes to capture the last point, which is technically within the time frame of a really fast capture, but I would need a ton of cavalry. I'd say overall, generally, it's pretty hopeless at this point. But I sort of wanted to scrap it out just to see how things played, since trading was finally starting to go slightly in my favor. But there you go. Game's over, guys, and that's gonna be the first loss of today. Turin's actually a really good player. He consistently takes games off of me basically every session we play. But for the next one, we're going to be trying to get our revenge. It's Dark Elves, and here we go. We have Malice. Man, these are like all the games Turin's casted, aren't they? Well, at least we get our own perspective here. For my build, I have Fate of Buna, and I have an infinite Winds of Magic battery in the bottom left corner there. You can see the caster in the forest. She gives like 1,000,000 winds of magic. I think like she gives like 20 winds of magic per cast, and she has 3 casts. So the idea is that I can basically just spam Fate of Buna 24/7 and kill absolutely any cavalry unit that sees the light of day. So now Warriors of Chaos have 7 legendary lords. That's correct. Chaos and Lizardmen will both have just 1,000,000 legendary lords, though I'm sure most of them will be useless. Bellicor is in Warriors of Chaos. He is. It's crazy. But yeah, this early stage of the game, I'm planning mostly to take advantage of my Winds of Magic here, and we're going to be playing pretty passively. Idea is just to hold 1 point, get a ton of value off Fate of Buna's, get a ton of value off of our Scourge Runners, and then take some decisive fights towards the middle of the game. As for Malice, the plan is, and I did some testing, you can transform him fairly quickly here. A lot faster than you might expect, because his sort of decay effect that goes on to him is much, is it Zarkin time, Hammond? Hammond, oh my gosh, it's just long enough, it's just spaced long enough apart where I forget about it each time. But yes, it is Zarkin time. And for... oh geez, what was I even talking about? Yeah, we're gonna be spamming Fate of Buna. We have tons of Winds of Magic, and generally I found... oh yeah, we're talking about Zarkan. Yeah, Malice's... the damage that he takes per second is actually like 25 or 30% less than it was in Warhammer 2. So he actually heal caps fairly consistently now, which means that... and quite quickly too, which means that usually you can just suicide him in. You can transform at like the 4-minute mark, and he's basically fine. It's from a caster. She's rotating. She wants to get that Fate of Buna on those Lost Sylvan Knights, as they do have physical resist, and Fate of Buna will punch through that. I believe anyways. I'm like 90% sure. There was a bug in early Warhammer 3 where direct damage spells would be negated by physical resist. I'm pretty sure that's fixed now. So we should be seeing a lot of damage on that. At least half of their HP gone. Will we see some Vampire Coast today? I think so. I intentionally got some Vampire Coast games because I know people were asking for it. But there we go. Fate of Buna is down. You can see we're stuck in orbit right now. And there we go. Yeah, Sylvan Knights taking huge damage. already dropping below half HP. Even if they do get healed, it's not really going to be helping them, as another Fate of Buna should more or less finish them off. The Scourge Runner Chariots too, getting some nice shots off. And now I want to make the big push towards the middle. I'm seeing that his cavalry's sort of in a weak enough state where I can take this fight, especially with well, I guess my Scourge Runner Chariots aren't there just yet, but if they do rotate, the Scourge Runner should be able to start harassing point number 3. You'll also notice I desummoned and resummoned my caster, my mana battery there, and that's because it resets her ability charges, which let her just give another 60 winds of magic, easy. As for Malice Darkblade, he's charging completely foolhardily into the lines because I do plan to transform early with him. It doesn't matter if he takes any damage, and there we go. Considering the transformation, we haven't done it just yet. I think he's sort of just still trying to distract those range units. And over on the right flank, we actually get a surprise ambush by turret. That's a little bit scary for me, and now that means that pressure is on for me to take at least one of these points soon. But there we go. It's Zarkin time. Malice is going to be transforming, and there we go. Proccing both of his abilities. Now the first one is a huge AoE that does about 700 damage to every unit that it hits. It's insane, and generally it's basically like a mini final transmutation around him. Heals him a ton too, and with that sort of tip in the battle, we managed to capture the middle point. But Turin is going to be able to steal my right point, point number 1 fairly quickly here, as he does have some units that are summoning in. So the choice is either I need to push for the top point, or I'm going to be summoning in units to defend. Right now we've mostly been playing for value trading, and in the top left you can see that's been paying off. About 2,000 gold value on top of Turin. And in this case I'm going to be trying to summon to fight on point number 1. We have the value lead, and the general idea here is that if I can just trade half evenly, most of his units will be too beat up to actually take the point. For anyone left out of the loop in the patch that I am playing on right now, the way that capturing works is that it's actually like half the speed as it is on the live build. So in general, you need a good amount more units to actually steal any points, and it makes points way easier to defend. All you have to do is send a few units to start trading. And in this case, you can see even though my Dark Riders are dying and my Bleak Swords are having a bit of a rough time, they're doing well enough. As for Zarkan, he is fighting Drycha right now. Originally, Drycha was actually a very scary legendary lord for the Wood Elves, as she has really, really nice combat stats, but Malice is just too strong for her. And I don't know exactly what did it. Possibly just the AoE, possibly the surround with a little bit of infantry support, but he absolutely annihilates her. Now, smelling blood in the water, we're just going to be dive bombing on top of her. As for the far point, I know that eventually we're going to be losing my flank point because Turin is winning that combat. So the plan is to sort of just switch gears now. We essentially stalled it for as long as we could have, cost efficiently, and now we're going to be trying to steal point number 3. I have a ton of cavalry that I can summon in, and also on this map specifically, after you win the middle point, it's a pretty easy transition to get over there and capture. They fixed the Zarkan model. I think for Turin it was bugged. For me it was fine. It's sort of weird, but you know, what can you do? But yeah, Drycha actually does manage to heal up fairly well, but she's still going to be getting hounded down. I don't think she can win against Malice, as when he does transform, he gets frenzied too. And we're going to throw down a Fate of Buna just to rout off that unit of Wild Riders. Now, I could have cast it on possibly the full HP unit of Spears to get more damage efficiency, but because Wild Riders are so scary, even in low numbers, I just wanted to finish them off and get that job done. Unlike in Warhammer 2, these spells are much more effective as the units get lower on models. It doesn't really lose effectiveness until they get below 25, so they're quite good for actually finishing off units. And in the middle, we're fairly secured. Now for the far point, it's still going to be a loss over there for us. However, we don't really need to fight there at all. Those units are essentially out of position there. And if we take a look at how many units are actually on that point, it's going to be a little bit of an overcommit from Turin. He had about 800 extra points there, which made me feel great about my relocate onto point number 3. Those War Dancers would have done way better on this point. Though, of course, this was sort of... Turin sort of had to have those War Dancers there just to be able to capture the point. So we sort of just caught him unsuspecting, and we're going to be getting into a very nice position here. But like I said, points are much easier to hold, and that far point down below point number 3 is very, very slow capping right now. And if we don't capture it soon, we would need to triple cap against Turin, which is a much scarier position. So sort of that's my main goal here in focus. We really want to get that, and with the routing of the spears and his caster, the point is finally ours. So all we have to do now is defend, and we should be good to go. Yeah, he can't transform back, but with the heal capping, Malice isn't really going to die. He transformed, I believe, at like, what, the 4-minute mark? 4 or 5-minute mark? It's been about 4 or 5 minutes, and he's still at full HP. Nowhere near dying. I think, unless there's like a dedicated kill squad to try and snipe out Malice, I don't think he really has to fear getting sniped out. Daniel saying, I love when you're up 500 points, you say this is a huge lead, but when you're down 2,000 points, you say this is fine, not a big problem. I guess that's very true, yeah. Yeah, it's it's very true. The thing about, if we're down 2,000 points, it can be absolutely terrible. I always have shenanigans in my back pocket though, so I feel like there's always a chance we can come back. As long as you sort of just keep making bigger and bigger plays, sort of the casino mindset when it comes to Warhammer. Terrible strategy in casinos. Terrible strategy in casinos. Wonderful strategy when you're playing domination. Yeah, just take bigger and bigger risks as you fall behind. There's no point barely losing. Or there's no point barely losing if you're guaranteed to lose. You either want to win or you lose. It doesn't matter how badly you lose. So taking a huge risk and potentially falling behind really, really far is definitely something that is worth considering if you're ever playing basically any competitive game. Now, for this situation though, we're fairly well set. I would say Turin has almost no outs here. Back when we did have the 2,000 point lead, if he had somehow managed to scrape by a kill on Malice, he would have been in a decent position. But right now, he's sort of just getting to the point of basically army losses. And this is a very dangerous position to be in domination. Once you really start running low on units, you just can't do anything. You can't hold points, and your opponent will just run you over. For comparison, if you have 2 armies that are, let's say, 4,000 gold and 2,000 gold, that's generally something you can sort of scrap out. But if it's like, you know, 2,000 gold to 4,000 gold, it's a way bigger difference. So usually if you're trading down, you want to try slowing down the trades that are happening, most of the time anyways. And in this case we managed to push pretty aggressively, and that should be it. There we go, Turin taps out, and a very smooth transition into the next game. Is this the same game? Is this the same game? No, we're playing against Zinch. Wonderful, okay. I think this was earlier when I was trying to test out Malice. Yeah, I really wanted to see how well he would fare. And I would say he's probably one of the most meta lords for Dark Elves right now. In domination and potentially land battles too. Though that's still a little bit more disputed. Yeah, you either win or you lose. See, like you say that, when I say that, it seems so simple, right? But all the time, it happens so often where I hear people saying like, oh yeah, that game was close, right? Like, oh, you know, like like oh man, like, it was like, I guess in the sense that, oh, they could have come back, but there's definitely games that are like close where really there was no shot that they could have come back on, since people can often sort of just fight for victory tickets rather than actually going for the win, which is a fairly common mistake that I see people make. Though honestly, it doesn't matter that much. No need to be too elite about it. When will there be live Immortal Empires? Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Usually Creative Assembly lets us do live casts, you know, before the release of DLCs and such. So fingers crossed, guys. Haven't seen Malekith in a while. Is he no longer an optimal pick? Yeah, he sort of feels like a weaker Malice because he doesn't have nearly as many heals, and his lore of magic is just way weaker. Like when you're playing as a Dark Elves, you much rather would have, you know, a stronger lore of magic, like let's say lore of shadows or lore of beasts like we have here. Just because the lore of dark magic doesn't really have a lot going for it, aside from the infinite winds of magic. But yeah, and that's what makes Malice so great, because he's a dedicated melee lord. He's much less expensive than everyone else. Now for this battle, you can see we've gone for a very sort of Slaanesh style of play here, just drowning out the enemy with a million units. Usually a pretty good play. Malice getting netted down by Kairos. I suspect he wanted to send a blue fire in, so I sent the Manticore to fight him. Unfortunately, doesn't block that up. But you know what? It's sort of fine. Malice is planning to transform anyways, so no real rush over there. As for the actual fight, I'm fairly confident that we'll do well here. Bleak Swords actually did get buffed, so they're quite a bit stronger against basically everything. They have higher melee attack now, and we're spamming out armor. Lots of cavalry is generally the bane of Tzeentch. You can see the pinks and blues have a terrible time actually fighting against that. And over here on the far side, we have a ton of units parked, and we're going to use them to try and steal point number 3. Now this is a bit risky, especially on this patch, as a 2-unit lead is not going to capture points very quickly anymore. So I actually summon in an extra unit of cavalry to try and make sure I'm able to capture that. And generally, that's how you want to play Dom. You want to make it where if you're going to take a point, make sure you take it quickly. And if your opponent's trying to take a point, make sure they capture it slowly. Being able to sort of stall is very important, and make sure that you're not getting stalled. As for the middle, we managed to capture that quite well. Trading is very slightly in our favor here, but the actual state of the battle is fairly good. We have point number 3 being taken. We have a lead in victory tickets, which makes life very comfortable for us. And most of Turin's range units are occupied in melee. So I would say this is a really nice lead for us, especially since the actual army sizes are fairly low. It means that a smaller amount of trading difference is going to be helping us out much more, as the percentage of our army is quite large. As for Malice, we actually haven't transformed him yet. No need to, really. And he's just going to be tanking blue fires with not a worry in the world. Forsaken technically take the right flank, but not really a problem. Are there any Tomb King games today? I believe there are. There should be at least a couple of them, so stay tuned. Stay tuned if you're a fan of Tomb Kings. I tried to get a lot of games in with factions that we haven't been seeing as much over the last couple of weeks.
Take it back. Cold-blooded killers.
Yeah, Dark Elves are pretty good. They're a pretty nice faction. I believe I rated them quite lowly, or quite low. I still think they'll have a rough time against many other factions, especially the top tier ones. But like, they can definitely hold their own well enough, especially if you're using Malice. Yeah, Tomb King sounds good. Yeah, Tomb Kings are surprisingly strong. I don't know what about it, but just the Tomb Guard are insane. And any Kepler Guard fans out there are gonna love the Kepler Guard. I had a whole unit of Seekers of Slaanesh charge Kepler Guard at like 20% HP, and they fought till the last man. They just kept regenerating, and they never ever died just because their regeneration is so high. You've been waiting for someone to cover Tomb Kings? I'm surprised we haven't seen more of them. They're rather strong. But yeah, for the actual battle, things are going pretty well. For our actual army, we're a little bit beat up in the middle, but I do have a lot of very elite cavalry. And generally, if I send over the Dread Knights to start cycle charging the Forsaken, I can sort of force turn to make a move. Either the Forsaken have to retreat, or they're taking damage basically for free, or turn has to summon in units to respond and defend. And if he does, I can pull back the Dread Knights and he'll be out of position. And this sort of play, instead of trying to take a big fight in the middle where potentially my Dread Knights might lose the fight, I'm just going to give them a better matchup. And hopefully get a little bit, hopefully by attacking that area, pull a little bit of pressure off the middle point. Did Skaven get any buffs? Their Slingers are 200 gold now, and their Rat Ogres are 700. So yeah, they got some price reductions. I don't know about any other changes though. But yeah, as you can see, the Dread Knights doing great against the Forsaken. Actually, as you can't see, I'm in the way right now. But they get a huge charge to take about 1/3 HP off of them. On top of their shields. And Malice playing very aggressively here so he can finally transform is going to be right on top of all of those units of beat up Blues and Forsaken. Now the Blue Fire comes down, but Zarkan is a tanky fellow, and he's going to be stalling up that entire reinforcement pool. Some Screamers show up, so I preemptively disengage with my Dread Knights. And over here, a slight zoom in on Zarkan. No idea what that was, but yeah, he's going to be hounding down those pinks. And sort of expecting that I may lose the middle point, I'm sort of starting to focus on point number 1 more. Here we go with Cavalry Summon to try and clear that out along with capturing. Generally, cheap cavalry is great there. And for the middle, it's mostly going to be on Malice to try and clear that out. Of course, I have a million scraps of units, but there's always a chance that they just rout off, given how low their HP is. So most of it, I would say, is on Malice. What's this about heroes and encourage? I believe basically, like most, especially the melee heroes, all have encourage. They're quite, so you know, if you're looking for that, you can use them. Though their encourage aura is pretty weak. It's only +3 leadership. Just a heads up. How does Coast stack up versus demons? Terribly, I would say. Very, very badly. Because Vampire Coast relies a lot on Sirens right now. And Sirens don't like magic damage. Is Hellebron any better? Not that I know of. I did a quick pass of the Dark Elf Lords, and I think Hellebron, Malekith, and Marathi are all basically the same. I think Malekith, like, one of his items gives some extra spell resist now, and that's basically it. But yeah, this game's going very well for us. We're up about 600 gold value. But just taking a look at the armies, we have a hugely superior force here. Most of the money, I believe, is in those Knights of Tzeentch, and we're just sort of spamming Flocks of Doom. Now, I know earlier in one of my really old videos now at this point, I did sort of bash on Flock of Doom quite a bit. Nowadays, I'm feeling like it's a lot better. Maybe not in land battles, but especially in domination. Flock of Doom is a spell that can be thrown down where without needing to flank the enemy. And in domination, flanking is very, very hard. Getting into a proper position to actually to get a clean, like, Amber Spear is so rare. I would recommend just sticking with Flock of Doom at this point, much as I preferred Amber Spear before. A battle with Blackguard today? Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. I've sort of been tending more towards the chaff when it comes to the Dark Elves. And I'm not sure why I haven't really been running Blackguard, and they should be fairly strong here. But I don't know. I guess I'm just sort of just having fun with Bleak Swords right now. But yeah, at this point we're gearing up for the triple cap now. Malice is still going very strong on the HP. Despite the blue fires, he's actually been able to fare very well in this battle. Not even getting close to being killed off. And at this point, we're only, like, you know, half a minute away from winning the game. Or actually close to 20 seconds. So GG to Turin. And that's going to be another win for us. Now, as we scroll over to the side, we see our units are getting bombarded out of their minds. But it's totally fine. And we're up to the next game. Gonna be Nurgle. A long-awaited Nurgle game against Lore Master of Sotek. Now, this one's pretty interesting. He's playing as a Lizardman. We gave him some pointers on builds and such for the Lizardmen, and they are one of the stronger factions. That sounds loud. I'm going to turn it down a bit. Yeah, Nurgle is one of the stronger factions. Or no, not Nurgle. Lizardman is one of the stronger factions in Domination right now.
For decay, Lord.
Man, why's that guy so loud? He sounds so loud. Anyways. Jeez, everything is loud. Jeez Louise. Yeah. So Lizardman's one of the stronger factions in Domination right now, particularly because Saurus warriors are so good at trading and pushing forwards that they're just really good at capturing points while trading up too. So it's a really nice spot for them. We're going to be playing as Nurgle though. We have a whack-a-load of healing, and in this battle, we have a ton of death heads with our good old Exalted Plague Bearers. Those are extremely strong against large units, very strong against infantry too, and generally if we want to snipe something out, we're going to be using those guys. Enticity, I feel like the damage to Malice inflates ticket numbers. Oh, is it? Interesting, interesting. I don't know if... I didn't know if the damage that Malice took actually increased that number. I'd have to check, but yeah, that would definitely be inflating the value. In your opinion, is Tyrion still the best fighter legendary lord? Definitely not. I don't think he ever was, actually. Who did I ever say Tyrion was the best fighter? Like maybe on the High Elf roster, but in general, I don't think he's anything that special. Especially because he routes so easily. Like I'm pretty sure Grimgor would be scarier, but Lore Master of Sotek throwing down the spells. Now he's gonna be getting a 1,000 gold lead right off the bat. This is obviously very scary for me, as Masamundi's AoE is insane. The Ruination of Cities being one of the stronger spells in the game right now. It basically does the same damage as 3 pendulums before the nerf. So it just absolutely annihilates infantry. Thankfully we do have healing though, and that's going to be helping us push through this choke and sort of mitigating that damage. Nurgle's sort of happy to take a little bit more of a beating, as long as he can get his heals off. So that's pretty good over there. For point number 1 on the right flank, we are sort of holding that. And Nurgle now with the Chaos Warhounds, the good old Poison Hounds, they are going to be doing great. Those guys are just a really nice addition to the Nurgle roster. They really give him the mobility that he needs, since previously he would have to summon either Toads or Nurglings, which is always a rough time. Furies too, an amazing choice against Pterodons, and with Mazdamundi moving on in, I'm pretty tempted to get some Death Head action on him. If we can actually manage to get him low enough, he'll have to stay out of the battle, and that could hopefully stop his very high anti-infantry damage from ruining my guys. I've also sent my Lord onto Masamundi. You might be surprised about that, since he's generally regarded as a great fighter, but one of the main weaknesses for him is the fact that he doesn't actually fight that well without his charge bonus, and actually my Herald is trading quite well into him. With the damage on him too, we're seeing a solid, or actually a minor lead for us. Comet hitting our Exalteds, but we do have more heals to help them out. And overall, I'm feeling pretty good about this position. The one thing that I'm really worried about here is mostly the fact that we're not really anywhere close to capturing point number 2 yet. Though Masamundi is low enough where he does have to retreat. Very nice. On the far point, we're killing the Saurus Spears. The Toads actually doing pretty well in that situation. And as long as we can get a couple units of infantry on the point, we should be good. Though easier said than done. The Saurus Warriors are going to be holding quite well for themselves, unless we get a couple more streams of corruption on them. Also a unit of Rot Flies, a little bit of a surprise unit here, but really nice for shutting down large targets. They don't have anti-large, but their mass and their mobility sort of makes them like, sort of like armor-piercing cavalry. Think basically Mournfang cavalry. And they're just going to be thrown right down on top of the Croxigors, unfortunately countercharged by Masamundi. But we might be able to finally push through now with another stream of corruption on the Temple Guard. They're looking pretty rough. However, Comet drops on my infantry, although it actually doesn't do that much damage, so pretty good for us. Dogs clearing off these Salamanders, and now I'm feeling very confident in this battle. Trading is technically very even, But against Nurgle, you have to be very careful. The numbers are often quite deceptive, and with the healing, we actually have a fairly sizable army compared to Lore Master of Sotek, especially in the middle point, and that's going to be giving us a really nice capture lead over there now. Now, it's not the fastest capture in the world. I still need to get a couple more units of infantry on it, but it's almost guaranteed to be ours now, and I'm feeling a lot more safe. Take a look at the top middle. He hasn't hit 2,500 victory tickets yet, which means we're safe on the 2-point capture. So pretty good. All we have to do now is actually hold our 2 victory points and we should be fine. Of course, Mazamundi's still alive, so we'll see how the rest of the battle pans out. Is it a recording again or is it real? It's a recording. Yeah, it's a recording, guys, unfortunately. Yeah, it's Lore Master of Sotek. How good is he? He's actually not that bad of a player. I would rate him about the strength of like I would put him at about the strength of like a low-level tournament player, which might sound bad, but in general, like even low-level tournament players tend to be quite strong if they decide to play on ladder. So I would say yeah, like that he'd be about top of ladder, bottom of tournaments, I guess. It's always really hard for content creators to get good at multiplayer though, simply because or at least really good at multiplayer simply because of the time you have to spend on making videos. But Sotek's actually quite formidable. I think among the content creators, he's actually one of the better opponents too. Oh, is Nightbot banning people? Nightbot. Oh, okay, no, maybe you banned a maybe you banned a proper thing. I don't know. Someone's saying bad Nightbot, so oh boy. Nightbot strikes again. You know it's a good stream when Nightbot's banning random people. No paid actors were harmed in the creating of these replays. Yeah, maybe there was a little bit of damage done. I generally don't hold back when I play against people, so sometimes they can be pretty vicious. Any fights versus Indie Pride? I think so. I don't know if I have those in this replay set, but we'll see. Stay tuned if you want to catch that. But this battle's mostly done. We've secured a huge lead now. 2,500 gold value. We still have our ROR plague bearers. The healing has been off the charts. And by the way, fun fact about Nurgle's healing ability, army ability, I believe it's what? It's called like fecundity or something. No, it's not called. Is it called fecundity? Whatever it's called, that healing ability roughly translates to a 10% extra HP on all of your units. So if you take, 1,000 damage, it'll heal you 100 back of that. Which means, because Lore Master of Sotek has dealt about 8,000 damage, we essentially got 800 gold because we've only been spamming that ability. And that's one of the most powerful things about Nurgle. It's like he has an extra 10% ward save on his entire army. Very, very strong. The Rotfly Lord, of course, as you can see, is still handing it to Mazamundi. He's not been close to dying at all in his entire battle against them. And always remember to send him into combat. He's a much stronger fighter than you might expect. What changes Nurgle army abilities? Like you mean what charges it? Because that would just be purely damage taken. Tariff saying domination looks so complicated. It's a lot simpler than you would think. All you have to do is capture 2 points before your opponent gets to 2,500 victory tickets, and mainly focus on trading. Basically play it like a land battle and you're more or less playing it right. And then towards the end of the game, focus more on capturing points. Simple as that. Now the act of capturing points is obviously very complicated, because you have to really focus on like you have to really focus on how to actually how to actually capture points quickly when you decide to take them, because a lot of people just think, oh, if I'm winning on a point, I should be capturing it, and that's totally wrong. So it can be a little bit difficult there. Fungus saying doesn't look fun. I would say I definitely had fun this game. So domination's definitely worth it for me. Unless you're saying, you know, playing Lizardman into Nurgle, in which case, possibly Nurgle still has some teeth, especially against the Warhammer 2 factions. Yeah, the draw the rest of the bird problem, indeed. It's a lot to really wrap your head around, but it's not as hard as you might think. I don't know. I've sunk so many hours into domination. A lot of it has sort of become very intuitive. So for example, like on that right point, I summoned Furies instead of summoning Plague Bearers or Toads or what have you. And I would say that's the most optimal play, to send the Furies onto the right side, except in almost every other situation, I would say that's a terrible play to send Furies onto the flank point. And the nuances on why that is the case is very complicated. So, you know, there's definitely a lot of depth there, but what can you do? What can you do? I enjoy it for sure, and sort of figuring that out and using that optimally. But you know, at least we have land battles on the ladder now. It's a bit weird that it's mixed in with Dom, but hey, at least we have options, which is always nice. But there we go, that's the win. What's this about sickness, question mark? Yeah, I got a bit sick. Nurgle got me, but I'm towards the end of that sickness now, so it should be fine. Now back to games against Turin. We're up against his vampire accounts. Now this was a game that a lot of people had questions for me when Turin posted it onto his channel. A lot of questions on what was going on with my build. Why was I even playing against the vampire accounts? I wanted to test something, because Khorne actually does quite well against accounts in domination, and I wanted to see if he could actually have the DPS to win it in a more traditional battle. My build went really heavy, trying to beat a Gaze of Nagash style build, since generally if you expect to be trading down, you focus more on, how do I have a Gorgon? It's a Khorne unit now. But yeah, generally you want to focus on trying to hard counter your opponent if it's a land battle and you think the matchup is not favored for you. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm gonna try to waste his magic damage, bring the Herald, get my infantry going, and see how it goes. And generally it can be a little bit sketchy, but of course the objective is to win, not to barely lose. And in this case, that's gonna be the gambit didn't pay off at all. Turin actually went for the complete opposite style, going for a blob bust instead, and that means I basically just have to take a straight up fight. But I still have a few tools here. My Lord on the motorcycle actually has really nice anti-infantry values, and he gives a huge amount of melee attack to all the units in the vicinity. The Gorgon can snipe out the Mortis Engine too, though it has to be very careful. And if I can just manage to grind out his units and get them to crumble away before they get too much healing, then we're totally good to go. No, only ROR Gorgons, yeah. Only the ROR Gorgon, because it counts as a marked unit. But yeah, so that's sort of the plan here. Summons are especially good. When it comes to fruit rules, the rule system used for land battles, you're only allowed to take one summon though, and that's going to be hurting me a little bit in this battle, as I'll have a much harder time clearing infantry in general. Turin's also doing a really good job stacking his infantry, usually something that I wouldn't recommend, but because I don't have any spells, there's no real easy way to punish it. And that means that they'll all be taking less damage overall and benefiting a lot more from healing. That's going to be really good for the vampire accounts in this game. As for the knights in the back, I'm not too worried about them. I just have some halberds trying to stop them up. And if we take a look at the value trading, it's actually not terrible for us. Things are going decently, but a lot of the units here aren't really anywhere close to crumbling. I see that the Graveguard, perhaps at half HP, I might be able to make a play there. So I decide to throw down my summon, and the plan is to get them to die as quickly as humanly possible. Gorgon just mostly needs to stay safe. It's going to try and snipe out what's it called? The Mortis engine. And it does get some pretty good connections on. Plus the melee attack boost on my Lord. And we're seeing pretty nice damage on all of the undead units. One of them is crumbling, though I think that's just a zombie. And it looks like the damage just barely isn't enough in that blob. Turin just simply has too many units on top of each other for me to easily get good coverage. And we only get to crumble one unit with our summon, which is obviously very bad for us. Even the skeleton spears live, and we can see here that despite me going for that sort of play, it didn't really pay off. We didn't hit the damage threshold, and now we're getting to the point in the game where many of these units are starting to heal cap, or at least getting close to it, showing that it's just insane value when it comes to healing. We may be up 1,000 gold in value, but Turin probably has maybe like 3,000 gold worth of healing going on. And that is just a huge debuff for us. Vampire counts need a nerf. Probably. I would say, like, if you nerf their healing, make it so that their AoE healing is just like closer to what it was in Warhammer 2. It'll probably be fine. And in fact, looking at this game, my build wasn't the most optimal thing in the world. Game audio is a bit loud. My build wasn't the most optimal in the world. If I had just gone for a mass infantry style, I think I might have actually been able to win the grind too. So something to consider when you're playing against accounts. Though this time we got absolutely dumpstered. We're gonna throw down our single AoE this game, right on top of all of those units. Unfortunately, it's no Pit of Shades, and most of them are gonna live. Though we do get another unit to crumble, which is a little nice touch, but we got massacred, guys. We got absolutely massacred. It's just no shot. Suzetras, hello. Happy to have you in chat. Let's see. Do beastmen also get minotaurs of corn? Beastmen, not that I know of. They just have normal minotaurs. But yeah, there we go. That game's over. And the very smooth cut once again into the next battle. It's going to be Skaven. Skaven up against the forces of Kislev. Turin once again. And this time we're going to be up against a full cavalry build by Kislev. This was actually quite a surprise when I loaded on in. I was expecting a lot more infantry, which is why I went for a very melee rush-centric Skaven build. But we can sort of make do here. My one unit of Jezzails is sort of the key for dealing with the chariots. I have the Globadiers for Turin's skirmishers, which is really nice. And all I have to do is keep the Jezzails safe while progressing towards the Lil Groms. Lil Grom is a very scary artillery piece, so I do have to shut it down. You can see how much damage it gets on my Rat Ogres. But as soon as I actually get on top of them with my melee, they're basically dead. So as long as I can do that before they rack up, you know, about 1,400 value, we're good to go. Rodents of unusual size, indeed. Yeah, actually getting in some Skaven games. I think I have one extra Skaven game somewhere. So we should be able to see more, at least in the near future. The Globadiers, too, are insanely strong against cavalry. Basically, I would say use them against almost anything except for single entities and they'll do well, but Turin on point with his dodging actually gets away from them. It's a good micro on Turin's part. Actually, really nice micro overall from him. Though, with the Jezzails, it's going to be pretty hard for him to do much. He does have a nice surround on me too, which means the Jezzails are always sort of really worried about getting charged. And the goal is to make sure that they never see combat, because if they do, the Kislev cavalry, they generally are, their unbreakable is going to proc, and there's no way they're going to route fast enough for my Jezzails to live. So just making sure that they're always surrounded. As for Throt, we accidentally send them a bit too far on the flank there. Thankfully, I managed to escape there, as if I hadn't, that may have been game there. Losing your Lord in either game mode is just absolutely terrible. So, just summoning in the Rat Ogres to really make sure he gets out of there. And we've actually made it to the Little Groms. Now, At this point, I've split up my forces a little bit. This may feel a tiny bit risky, but I believe the force that is more forwards on the little Groms to actually be rather safe. They have the caster nearby with them, and he can generally keep them well defended with his summons. I have a lot of spear infantry there, so I'm sort of happy splitting my army. Although a bit of a misplay, I do let my Jezzails get charged. Little bit scary, though it will be at the sacrifice of Turin's cavalry. And for this fight over here, we're just continuing to push. Now, he does bring out a single unit of, I believe, Streltsy, and they're going to be getting a few volleys in onto my infantry. Nothing too scary, though, and the Clan Rat Summon should be very strong against them. As for the little Groms, we have our Jezzails now target firing them, and I'm just doing this to make sure that pressure stays on top of them. The little Groms are sort of the scariest unit here right now for us, since they'll be able to generate near infinite amounts of value if I don't shut them down. And by being very aggressive against them, I can force Turin to throw away his cavalry to try and defend them, and that's going to be helping me out quite a bit. Heal on the Rat Ogres should be great. The chariots are more or less shut down, so no problems there. And although Turin does get a really nice charge on my Jezzails, I believe they're routing right now. We get a huge trade against his cavalry there. So feeling pretty confident. Now, value trading is actually still in the favor of Turin, only slightly though. And I do have Thwart with regeneration and healing. Not to mention, generally, these cavalry builds are much weaker in terms of trading, like straight up than a more conventional build like mine, which means that I'm still pretty comfortable. Like, if you actually take a look at the armies here, I have a ton of melee infantry, and Turin's value is mostly stuck in the little Groms right now. And we've actually been regenerating a good amount too, although I'm actually a little bit surprised with how the trading's going. It's a lot closer than it felt in the battle for sure. But now with Thwart actually in the fight now, he's going to be able to start tearing apart those little Groms. As for the rest of my army, the basic goal is to make sure my infantry is close to my Rat Ogres, and if I can maintain that, then generally they won't be taking too much damage. My Skaven Slave Spears are barely bracing in time against those Kossars, going to be helping them out a lot. And we have a little bit of a Doom Squad going now, so just a unit of Rat Ogres, Thwart, and my 2 heroes. They'll basically be indestructible here, so no problem. You can see the balance of power in the top middle, very much in my favor too. So this game should, in theory, be mine. I think the only way it could go south is if the little Groms actually manage to pull away and get damaged. But because Thwart is so good at fighting here, I don't think that should be a possibility. So pretty nice. Will a Warp Lightning Cannon trade up against a little Grom? It won't. Yeah, little Groms should be able to like one-shot Warp Lightning Cannon models. So I would say that would just that would be a bad unit. They can dodge too. That's the crazy thing. Little Grom is one of the best counter artillery pieces in the game. But yeah, here we go. It's just a couple of units of cavalry left. That little Grom is completely shut down, so we're actually up 1,400 gold in value, just because it's more or less dead at this point. And the last thing to do is just to clean up the rest of the game. I believe there's only like 2 more units of cavalry left for Turin here, so I'm feeling very confident. Turin's been saying that he wants to main Tomb Kings in Warhammer 3 because he believes that they will be a top tier faction. Yeah, I would believe that too. Although I don't think Tomb Kings will be the top tier factions. I think there's a few factions that will be downright oppressive on launch, at least by my prediction. And I think that's going to be a lot of the Chaos factions. Slaanesh is already so strong right now. So unless they see a nerf, probably it'll be a bit of a Chaos fest. I could see it already. People being super annoyed about that. But yeah, I think we should be able to live, especially if CA do their mid DLC patches. We'll probably see some nice balancing. And of course, never trust my take on the meta unless I've had, like, you know, a good few months with the armies. There's a very good chance I'm just completely wrong here, so no need to panic just yet. Though my vote's definitely on the Slanesh side of things. Yeah, Tomb Kings. So Tomb Kings are strong because they Tomb Guard are extremely powerful. Yeah, Tomb Guard will generally trade up as long as they see melee, and without the threat of burning head, they will pretty consistently get good value too. The Realm of Souls ability for the Tomb Kings also gives a total of 36% of their HP back, which is insane. So Tomb Guard are just really happy to exist in domination right now, just because they're so cost efficient. Yeah, and I think the Tomb King's lore passive got buffed too. So in general, they're just really nice. Nakar Warriors got buffed. A lot of their units are cheaper. It's great. Hey, and here we go. The glorious Demons of Chaos game against Turin. Now this one was legendary. The Be'lakor. Now I said earlier that Be'lakor was pretty weak when it came to the when it came to domination, simply because he could be ignored so much. But over here, I would say Be'lakor is actually insane. He's actually insane. If you take a look at his abilities, he'll heal 8 HP per second for each unit that's wavering or routing near him. Enemy unit that's wavering or routing. So he already has one of the best regenerating abilities in the game right now. And on top of that, he can go up to like 100 melee attack and 700 armor piercing. It's crazy. It's crazy. So he is one of the best fighters in the game. He has some of the best healing in the game, and he has access to the Lore of Shadows, which gives him one of the best spells in the game. Only downside is that he's quite expensive, which makes him weaker in domination. But as you can see here, he's going to be very aggressively attacking Volkmar, and the rest of my army's more or less just here for show. They're basically just gonna be sitting around and just distracting the range units while Be'lakor does his thing. Because generally, the battle plan here is I just want to kill Volkmar. If I kill Volkmar, I know more units will be routing, and he'll be healing more, Be'lakor that is. And after Volkmar's down, there's basically nothing that can kill Be'lakor. A lot of the units here are really low damage. Pit of Shades, by the way, one shot 3 company militia. It's a pretty good spell. And yeah, that's sort of the game plan here. I have no other real focuses, and all of my army abilities are going to be focused on shutting down Volkmar. We got the net, which is a very lucky pick for us. 1 in 4 chance. And a surround with the Flesh Hounds are going to be helping us out too. Just sort of piling in with the mass to help out as much as possible, because I really don't want Volkmar to get that healing over the course of the game. There's also the chance that we get army lost, which would be really bad. So I have to be careful that I don't lose my entire army before we get some good trades going. So that's the plan. Someone saying I hope they don't nerf him. Honestly, I think Be'lakor is probably not as problematic as many people think. He's just a really expensive lord. Though he's probably better than even the Blood Dragon Lord. And many of the Vampire Counts Lords who are very strong. It's just that his army usually isn't strong enough to support him. Unless you're, Warriors of Chaos, and it definitely will be strong enough. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out, I'd rather have a strong Be'lakor than a super weak Be'lakor. Because, it's really easy to nerf things, but after Creative Assembly nerfs things, they generally don't buff them back until a really long time later, which is just really sad. It means that we miss out on so many new diverse units.
Lord of Torment, at once.
But yeah, for this battle overall, I would say at this point it's basically won. The only thing that can really punish us here is the army losses, though. So the plan is to avoid that as much as possible. We're gonna throw down the Pit of Shades too, right on top of his infantry. It will be hitting some of my screamers, but they have high HP, so that doesn't really matter. And to sort of avoid army losses, my Flesh Hounds are just gonna be super efficient here. They're gonna be chasing off the cavalry and sort of staying away from the rest of the battle, because I really didn't want to get get shot up or to get army lost here, with Be'lakor sort of being able to fight the rest of the army right now. I proc his 40% ward save, which is really great. It lasts 33 seconds, which is more or less an eternity. And that's going to be keeping him very safe from the net. It will last the entire duration even. And now we can go back to chasing down Volkmar. Now generally Volkmar is very hard to hit, but Be'lakor is flying, so he can sort of pass through many of the units. He won't get caught up on cavalry. And he lands the hit with the charge. His terror routes are huge too, as it's a -8 leadership and removes immune to psychology, so most units that try to pin him down who are low on HP will be going down. And we have enough HP where I can just basically beeline Volkmar. Free Company Militia won't do that much to him because Be'lakor is even fairly high armored. We got the Nurgle slow that we slammed down on there, and one more hit's gonna do it. And with that, Volkmar lives. He actually lives. Yeah, Volkmar actually makes it out. But there we go. Second hit lands, and he does go down with that. And now it's just the rest of the Empire army. Now, we did take a lot of damage from the Free Company with our big beelining there. But without the leadership, these guys are now going to be terror routing left, right, and center. And like I said earlier, when units are terror routing near Be'lakor, he's healing 8 HP per second, which means he's basically gonna be completely fine. Is this the same battle from Turin's channel? It is literally the same battle. Unfortunately, us casters, we don't actually have enough access to players, so we're sort of just feeding off the same replays. But yeah, Be'lakor is gonna be absolutely mauling everyone here. All the healing is gonna be great, and as units rout off, he's just gonna be picking up more and more on HP. We can even chase off routing units if we really want to here. And with the DPS of just 2 Free Company Militia, we're fairly safe. As long as I can keep up my my ward save. Thankfully, it's up in another 3 seconds. And I'm just going to be continuing to rout off the Free Company Militia here. As long as I always have one shut down. We're only getting shot up by one of them, which is fine. Bright Wizard's gonna move on in to try and kill Be'lakor, but he's extremely tanky here, and he's not especially worried about the Bright Wizard. He may seem low on HP, but I believe even now he has like 2,000 HP left, which is more life than the Bright Wizard has, or at least equal to him. So not really too much of a problem. And with all of the kills that he has like 100 melee attack now, and it's just hitting like a truck. Almost setting up for like a 5-shot on that Bright Wizard. He's gonna be running for the hills. And yet again, we have the Free Company Militia routing. And this is why killing Volkmar was so important. After he goes down, most of the units will just constantly be routing left, right, and center. Shem's Burning Gaze completely misses Be'lakor. I think the targeting on him is sort of janky, so most people miss him. And all I have to do now is just chase off a couple of units. If I can finish off the Free Company, it means that Be'lakor will have one less range unit to worry about. And with the Light Wizard coming on, and we can turn around and give him a bit of a walloping too. There we go, one hit. Takes out about a quarter of his HP, and he terror routs immediately with that huge leadership debuff. Another hit. Chunking him down very hard, and he's running for the hills. Now I just have to chase him off. Yeah, Be'lakor be godlike. He's very strong. What's this about? What's this about land battles? Or no, what's this about in-game chat? Kind of miss, what's it? Will the in-game chat come back in the future? I have no idea. I only know what is publicly stated by Creative Assembly. But yeah, there we go. Light Wars is getting chased off. You can see the healing on Be'lakor too, just sort of constantly rolling. And he hasn't really lost HP in the last few minutes. It's absolutely brutal. It's Bellacor's favorite candy. Give me the puns, man. Give me the puns. I'm ready for it. But yeah, at this point, we just have to finish off the rest of these guys. Now, most of them are basically going to be routing off. Any Empire unit at half leadership is not going to be able to stand against Terror and -8 leadership on top. So they're more or less doomed, but even worse, I have a Pit of Shades in the pocket. Overcast even. So there's no chance here. Another gross thing about land battles too is that in the act of chasing units away recharges my abilities. So we even have the ward save back as we charge in here. We're right on top of those Free Company militia. They're running for the hills. And just a normal cast Pit of Shades is going to do it over here. Finishing off the rest of these Free Company militia. It casts just fast enough where it's basically undodgeable. You can only dodge maybe 20% of it. That's going to be quite painful. Those guys are gone. And with it, any chance that the Empire can come back. The value trading simply will not be enough here, and I believe Be'lakor will not lose HP for the rest of the battle now. Landing right on top of the Hellstorm rocket battery crew, one-shotting them, they're terror routed, and it's just the Sigmar Sons. It's over. We might even get a Nurgle healing ability on the right side there. Unfortunately, we don't, but we don't even need it. And Be'lakor just slamming right into those swordsmen. That's gonna be it. 365 kills, 99 melee attack, and 756 armor-piercing weapon damage. What a menace. What a menace. Be'lakor is insane, guys. Would highly recommend if you haven't tried him out. Yeah, he's gonna be great, especially on the Warriors of Chaos side too. But yeah, for the next battle, it's going to be Bretonia against Nurgle. Now, Turin did say he wants to suffer a little bit, so this is going to be a pretty rough matchup overall, I would say. As the problem with Nurgle in land battles is that no one has to take a fight against them. And to sort of lean into this, I've brought a full cavalry kite with basically no infantry outside of my peasant bowmen. And I could just take my time being as efficient as possible, cycle charging with my cavalry. We can get as much regeneration as we want with Lewin. Though there are a few dogs in the backline to try and disrupt my archers, we do have quite a few tools here to defend them. And this is a benefit of going so hard on cavalry. Basically, you just countercharge anything that dives your archers, and you're pretty safe. We got some heals too, and already value is in our favor. Now the knights on the right side are in a bit of a sticky situation. One of them getting charged by toads and one getting charged by the plague drones. And generally, they're basically lost causes here. I could try to disengage with them, but that would more or less just cause them to rout immediately. So I'm just going to leave them in combat to hold the line, while buying me a little bit of space on the left-hand side. You can see we've given ourselves a lot of mobility for our archers to stay safe. And in the act of trying to chase down my guys, I can charge any units that tend to overextend. This essentially slows down Turin's army to be as slow as the slowest units in his army. And this will allow my archers to get a pretty nice kite off. Meanwhile, we're still getting loads of heals, but the trading is actually fairly even if you take a look at the balance of power. It's still a little bit scary, and my archers only now have been able to get a position to start firing. The big problem though is that Turin's rapidly losing a lot of his mobility, and that's going to be hurting him as he gets later into the game, as the more mobility he loses, the worse this fight goes in general by a long shot, as we'll have basically units that are all optimized against his plague bearers. Knights can cycle charge, archers can more or less kite them forever. So that's sort of my plan in this battle right now. We just want to shut down as much of his speedy units as possible, and then just slow down the rest. And so far it's looking pretty good. My archers have gone a good few volleys off, about a quarter of their ammunition. Lewin is doing very well on the right side blob, so I would say we have a pretty nice lead. Is Immortal Empires out today? It's not out today, sadly. Not yet. We gotta wait like till mid next month, unfortunately, but eventually it will be out. Pox arrows against Nurgle seems odd. Yeah, it's a little bit odd. Nurgle's affected by poison now that I think about it. Very strange. I guess I had never really considered that, but there you go. Yeah, you can poison Nurgle. I feel like he should have an immunity to poison, but what can you do? Are Gotrek and Felix in Immortal Empires? In the builds that we have, we only have access to battles. So I have no idea in terms of campaign, but yes, you can access them with Bretonia, Empire, you know, the usual factions. Not Cathay though, as I guess they never went to Cathay. Arrows dipped in soap? That's even more weird. Bretonian peasants with soap? They're not rich.
For honor.
What do you take them for? Knights?
Immediately.
Is the Immortal Empire's beta out? Not yet. Not yet, guys. One day we will have access to it. What? It's like the 24th or something. 20 or so days. Yeah. Soon enough.
Lady wills it.
But yeah, there we go. We've cleared up the right flank with our massive knights and healing. Looking pretty good. We've also been completely ignoring the cultists, and the reason for that is because if they get below 75, they get below 75% HP, they'll be able to summon, they'll be able to summon their plague bearers on top of me, and we definitely don't want to be dealing with those until we get to the end of the battle. So I'm mostly just going to ignore them for now. And for the rest of Turin's army, there's basically nothing left. We have a full HP Lewin against his Plague Bearer, or his Plague Rider, his Plague Ridden, whatever he's called, the Lord for Nurgle here. And Lewin will definitely win that fight. Unlike Mazdamundi, he is a much better fighter in static combat without cycle charging. So he should be great there. And for the rest of the army, we just have far too many knights. All of the plague bearers are down, and it's just single entities left, which is always a great situation to be in. If it's ever just single entities, the strategy you want to employ is basically surrounding them with a unit and cycle charging with one of your own single entities. So in this case, that's going to be my Paladin and Lewin, and we'll be pinning them down with knights. So a pretty nice win. Pretty nice win today, I say.
It shall be.
Hey, Ent, looks like you were killing it. Oh, like what, in our games today? Yeah, we've been doing pretty well. I think I have a pretty nice grasp of the factions now, I would say. Out of everyone, the faction that I feel the least comfortable with is probably Skaven, I think. Skaven feel really weird. It seems like there's a lot of potential, but I haven't really unlocked it yet, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's that game. And for the last, or not the last game today, we might cover a replay. For the last recorded battle, it's going to be Vampire Coast paired with the dreaded greenskins up against Heir of Carthage and Indie Pride. That's right, we got Indie Pride here today. I know someone was asking for him earlier, and yeah, it's a 2v2. It's a 2v2, and we're playing Coast. We got the triple Axe Depth Guard, ROR Depth Guard, and it's gonna be a crazy rush build. Because here's the thing, guys, Depth Guard are healing twice as fast now as they did in Warhammer 2, which means that they actually grind in melee fairly well. Still very weak against ranged, but the plan for today was to make it where my greenskin frontline here essentially just tanks for me. They're going to be taking all of the actual initial volleys from the Thunderers, and then the Depth Guard will actually be in the optimal situation they were meant to be in. And once they're there, they will most definitely grind out against the Dwarves, and they should trade fairly well into Chaos too. So I was pretty happy about seeing a pretty heavy mass range build from my opponents, and it's full pedal to the metal. We're not even worrying about capture points. We're just marching forward and trying to dive in onto the enemy. Now for the Dwarves, we do see there are cannons. They're plonking away at my Depth Guard. A little bit scary, though I do have a Hex to heal them up. And I'm mainly focusing more on summoning in Mourngulls to try and reinforce as quickly as possible. As for the Thunderers, we're shutting them down specifically so that they can't kill my Depth Guard. That's sort of our winning play here, making sure that those guys stay alive. So that's sort of the plan. As for Noctilus, he is fairly close to the cannons, but our summons should be able to shut them down temporarily, and the fighting is starting to get underway. As for the backline summons of the Dwarves and Chaos, I believe I see some Slayers and what appear to be Great Weapon Marauders, I believe. Not too scary, as we have a fairly strong line of greenskins to deal with those Marauders. Depth Guard should trade pretty well into them too. And with a huge invocation of Nahek, the battle gets underway. So, Can we actually win this now? We've immediately captured the far point here, which is really good for us, as it means that victory tickets are even now. And our depth guard are actually getting into melee without seeing combat. So now we just have to see how well they actually trade. Because we basically never saw depth guard before. They were sort of a bit of a strange unit, not really too popular since they got nerfed before release. So we'll see if they're actually able to do it. As for the point number 2, the plan for me and Okoi, I can never remember how to say his name. The plan was to basically just capture it with reinforcing units. And then that way we can focus mostly on the battle at hand. And in this case, it's going pretty well. Aside from Noctilus actually taking quite a bit of damage, he's gonna be starting to dodge here. And he's just gonna be a distraction current effects. Essentially a unit that sort of is really juicy to shut down, but will never really die. He's just extremely tanky, and that's going to be giving us really nice value here. The depth guard too are collapsing in. One of them a little bit ahead of themselves. Looks like they took quite a bit of damage though. And the Thunderers are actually cutting away from them, which is a little bit scary. But for the rest of the battle, things are going fairly well. Trading is roughly even. Huge foot of Gork slams it onto my zombies, which hilariously enough, just friendly fires of Thunderers. Oh wait, no, that's that was from my ally. My own ally. Yeah, we both had the same idea to shut down the Thunderers, and the foot of Gork just completely slams down, ruins them, and hurts us a little bit. But nevertheless, the zombies still get to distract a little bit longer, and most of our depth guard are still alive. I believe only 2 of them have really gone down now, but the backline is completely compromised, and we're basically spawn camping our opponents now, which is a really nice position to be in when, despite that, you're still trading evenly. Although generally spawn camping is a bad idea, because you will start to trade down. But overall, things are looking pretty good. Noctilus too, he's on the run, as the cannons are really focus firing him down. But as you can see, the front line just went really, really well for us. And that's sort of because we were mixing in the depth guard with the greenskin infantry, which mitigated the damage on them and just kept their HP really, really nice and high. The glowing Morn goals also, I would love to point out. A little bit of a graphics glitch there. You can more or less ignore it. I'm sure it'll be fixed by the time the game is out. And the fight continues to go on. Now for Noctilus, he definitely doesn't want to die. If he does, it means that we'll probably get a lot of our depth guard crumbling, which would be pretty bad. And for me, I'm just summoning in more Sirens and depth guard. The idea of not summoning in zombies is basically just because the zombies would just get to the fight too slowly. We're fighting across the entire map right now, so I'd much rather just have units that get there faster. As for the 2 points that we're holding, it easily is giving us a nice lead, as essentially all we have to do is keep fighting on the back point and we'll be good to go. As for the backline fight, you can see my depth guard, even without Invocations of the Heck, are holding very well against those Forsaken and Longbeards. And paired up with the unit of Greenskins too, they're doing great. I believe at this point I told Okoi that we should start going for the 3rd point to try and get a steal there, as we've more or less pushed them all the way to the white line on the other front. So we might as well start attacking the other one too. And the depth guards still live. They're just hanging out. The Greenskins are doing great too. And honestly, I would highly recommend going for a rush build anytime you go for vampire counts or vampire coasts in multiplayer matches, because when actually supported by decent mid-tier infantry, the vampire coast elite are fairly strong. You bet the patch notes will get pre-released. Oh man, yeah, if we get an Immortal Empires patch notes, it's gonna be so huge, man. The amount of changes that they've added to the game is endless, man. Absolutely endless. But yeah, this things are going pretty good. Now trading is technically down for us, but when it comes to the healing, we're actually in a much better position. All my depth guard essentially have mega regeneration, And Noctilus has been spamming Invocations of Nehek too. So we're actually much more even in trading than you might think. Yeah, it's like the 23rd or something when Immortal Empires is going to be accessible by you guys. Keep an eye out. We'll get there eventually. And in the backline fight, the Depth Guard and Orcs are still fighting. This is still going there. It's amazing. Now, point number 1 still is going to be slowly transitioning hands into the sides of the enemy. Going to be a little bit scary for us, but we do have reinforcements pulling on in. They, of course, have quite a few too, though. But with point number 3 on the far side being captured, it's not too much of a problem. We'll be able to maintain our 2 victory point lead, which is all we need to win out the rest of the game. So, and generally they don't have any units near that far point, nor can they really reinforce that very quickly. So we should be able to get a nice sort of just 2 victory points here. And even with their units piling on in, our tide of units are still holding very well for themselves. Although Burning Head does get a lot of damage in, clears out a ton of our forces, and potentially might let them recap one of the points. We'll see. Such a good showcase of dwarves and domination. Yeah, literally just being spawn camped by Depth Guard. This is why dwarves are rated the lowest. Even worse than Vampire Coast.
What?
Yeah, it's a little bit of suffering here. Wurzag almost getting sniped out. A little bit scary, but we're totally fine. And they're still even struggling to capture the point a bit. It seems like without a lot of very high mobility forces, they're not really doing too well here. It's mostly an infantry-based army, and that means that, that means that they basically have to take any fight that's given to them. Infantry have very little agency when it comes to where they end up fighting, and that's simply because they don't have a lot of mass or speed. And with our reinforcements, the point number 1 still taking a long time to hold. Really, the only thing that's keeping it together is the fact that there's Grom Brindle and Felix on it. But they're not extremely fast at capturing. And it's going to be pretty rough. Going to be pretty rough for them. Though it looks like the point may finally switch over into the hands of the Dwarves and Chaos. This is the Chaos Dwarf DLC that nobody asked for. And it's going to be very close. It's going to be very close. But we actually managed to start recapturing point number 1. They didn't even take it because I believe the Squig Hoppers actually having full capture weight is going to be helping here. Some Dragon Ogres do show up, but Squig Hoppers I believe aren't expendable. So they're going to be holding that very well. We actually get 2 chevrons or 2 arrows showing that we managed to capture it, and that's going to be it. That's going to be it. A very decisive win for the forces of the Vampire Coast and the Greenskins. Very fun rush build. I think if a meta build does show up for the Vampire Coast, it would be a build that has sort of Depth Guard and Sirens. I feel like that's a fairly strong combo. Although they would need a little bit more of a buff for that to become truly viable. But there we go. That's going to be our 9th win. Now we do have one more game, and it's going to be a proper replay. So you guys can, I guess I'll set up I'll ask chat. So between the replays, you guys wanted to see Skaven vs Empire, Demons of Chaos vs Tomb Kings, Coast vs Demons of Chaos. Take your pick, guys. Take your pick. I'll just pick whichever one the first person messages. So Skaven, let's see, Empire versus Skaven. All right, it's done. It's done. Empire versus Skaven. Everybody else in chat's gonna be disappointed now. Oh wait, actually, yeah, people are talking about Tomb Kings. That's true. That's true. You know what? Let's go Tomb Kings. Let's go Tomb Kings. Because we didn't actually get a Tomb Kings game, and I promised it. Yeah, we're gonna go Tomb Kings. I'm putting in my executive vote. Guess what? The vote was rigged from the beginning, guys. Here we go. I just need a quick second to load on in, and we should be good. Here we go. And one moment. Yeah, Tomb Kings. Now, Tomb Kings are a very strong faction right now. They do have the Tomb Guard, which are absolutely exquisite. Got the Nahakara Warriors. They have basic skeletons if you just really want to capture. It's a good time. The question is whether or not they have a lot other stuff that can really help them out. The constructs don't heal from their lore passive, so they didn't really get buffed in the recent update. And in this game, they're actually going to be up against Be'lakor. Take a look at this, people. In this match, on the green side, I've gone ahead and bought with myself a Be'lakor. We've brought a healing caster over here, and 2 Fiends of Slaanesh, a Blood Shrine of Khorne, and a Beast of Nurgle. It's a single entity mobility squad from hell, I guess. And it's pretty janky. It's a little bit janky, I must say. But you know what? The hope is that Be'lakor can hard carry as Pit of Shades as per usual. Ward save, huge damage, and overall, generally a very strong fighter. On the Tomb King side of things, we have Supportful Stalkers, a very scary unit. We got the Tomb Scorpion, and we have Cetra, the man himself, coming on in today to try and show that that he does not serve against Be'lakor, and very likely will be able to show that. As for the actual infantry corps, it's going to be Nahakara Warriors, really exploiting the fact that my demons have no armor. It's gonna be pretty scary for them. Yeah, he's on the cat too, man. Chad is way too hyped about this game. My goodness. And yeah, we got the Beast of Nurgle. One of the best models in the game, by the way. Actually amazing. Whoops, clipping through the floor. Yeah, look at this. It's crazy, man. All those tentacles moving around. You got the Nurglings just climbing in and out of the mouth everywhere, going back in. They're just swarming everywhere. It's great. The skin looks like really dried slug leather. It's disturbing, man. One of the best units. And over here on the left hand side, we're going to see Be'lakor. He's going to be dancing in the sky, just as happy as the Beast of Nurgle, with the Ushabti Greatbow firing away. Just a little bit of dodging, burning their ammunition. Generally, no big trades on either side. As for me, I'm just going to be capturing this point, and then using dog summons to capture this point. And you'll notice something interesting about this build. We have no infantry. Absolutely, absolutely no infantry. And we don't need them because they don't have that high capture weight compared to mobile units. So might as well just stick with the units that are better. I believe infantry would just sort of fare very badly into Tomb King, so that was the general idea. And with this point captured, I can now focus all of my forces on this fight over here. The dogs are going to make a mighty charge onto those stalkers. And will they do a lot of damage? Yes, they will. They're flesh hounds. How could you even believe that they wouldn't do damage? But Sepulchral Stalkers do have magic melee attacks, which is going to be bringing the pain back on my dogs. Actually, fairly even trading in terms of HP here. A little bit worse for the Flesh Hounds too. And this is one of the benefits of Tomb Kings. Kepra Guard also with the magic damage, really nice against demons. That's like extra 20% damage. And we're going to be losing point number 1 very quickly to a triple skeleton horseman summon, but value trading is going to be going our way. If we take a look over here, Sepulchral Stalkers go down, Fiends of Slaanesh dive on in, and it's a pretty good fight for us right now. All we have to do is make sure that we don't lose on victory points. But like we said earlier, it's mostly about trading early on. It's very early in the game, so no problem. The Slaanesh bot showing up too, seeing the Fiends of Slaanesh, getting a little bit too excited. I sure hope we have a... There we go. And they're banned. Thank you, Bubba's Big Blast. I can't believe, of all the things, Nightbot didn't ban that. Come on, Nightbot. Why you gotta ban the civilians and not the bots? It's a bot uprising. But regardless of my terrible Nightbot, we have a fairly good fight here. The Skeleton Horsemen aren't the best fighters in the world, and Be'lakor is gonna be trying to take a fight against Cetra. He's gonna be standing around, but he's blocked by a single skeleton. Keep trying, skeleton. Or what was it? Oh geez, I forget what the quote. Whatever. Be'lakor finally pushes past him, and now he's gonna be fighting Cetra. Now, how will this fight go? Dang, Be'lakor is like sort of huge, man. He's doing pretty well, landing only like 1 attack though. but he does manage to get Cetra to retreat. Pretty rare when it comes to the man who does not serve. And with that fight out of the way, we're going to be recapturing point number 1, but the timer is ticking. If we don't capture quick enough, we're going to be starting to fall behind on points, which would be very scary. Over here, a very well secured point number 3 on the Tomb King side. Gonna be a little bit scary. Who's playing Tomb Kings? I totally forgot. I think it was like, was it Indie Pride? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, we've managed to win over here, and we've left the Capra Guard at a crumbling 39 entities. They only have 1,300 gold HP left, so they're not really too much of a threat. I'll sort of just leave them there. And over here, Cetra pinning down a couple dogs, though actually not doing too much damage, and the plan is just shut down as many ranged units as possible. Fiends of Slanesh are actually really great for that, and I've been looking for a heal this entire game on my blob, but we haven't really gone that yet. I've mostly been spamming Pit of Shades with Be'lakor, so we've sort of been lagging behind on heals. Still though, the fight's going okay. Over here, this point is captured, and it's a little bit of an overcommit on the Tomb Kings. These units could be helping the fight over here, and instead I have a full concentration of force, and that will be allowing me to start capture point number 2. Very nice for me. Beast of Nurgle fighting off the Tomb Scorpions, but what's this? The Capra Guard healing at 10 HP every single second. Actually 10 HP every half second. I have no idea how, but that means they're healing 20 HP a second. Insane healing rate on them. Gonna be picking them up, and they're even stealing the back point. If they manage to take that, that would be devastating. So fingers crossed they don't. Yeah, we got a little bit of blobbing here. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and it seems to be working pretty well. Be'lakor has given a bit of a beating to Cetra, taking him down to half HP, looking for another big fight here. Blocked by my Blood Shrine, unfortunately, but the fight's going very well. Over here, a double Tomb Guard summon, though, moving onto the point, and will they be able to stall it? Yes! Yes, they will. Barely not capturing the point, and that's going to be a little bit of a problem for me. I need to take this if we want to not lose on the victory point front, and I need to take it really soon. Now, I will be putting a huge hurting on Cetra, but he still has full capture weight. However, the Pit of Shades drops right on top of the Skeleton Horsemen, and look at that. Huge value on top of them. They're going to be gone in an instant, and that will be able to give me just enough capture weight to take the point. Very nice for me, and we have a double capture against the Tomb Kings 1. Over here, the Nehakara Warriors are moving on in, and the Capra Guards still live against all odds. They're still fighting against Seekers of Slanesh. But if we take a look at their HP, they're not losing any HP. They're barely losing HP. And I decide, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm just going to disengage and cycle charge to try and tear them down. Capra Guard definitely one of the scarier units here. They even in crumbling, they won't die. You actually have to kill them off. So in a sense, they're sort of pseudo unbreakable. Over here, huge volley on Be'lakor. The Sepulchral Stalker is actually a really nice unit for the Tomb Kings, and I would highly recommend them against Demons of Chaos. So Be'lakor still putting the brakes on them, definitely hurting them quite a bit. Capra Guard still alive at 8 models. Nobody knows how. And come on, 400 HP. No, they're still alive. We'll check back in on them in a second. As for Be'lakor, Sepulchral Stalkers still going down, but some summons in the back. We got a couple archers, and these guys are going to be very hard to take out. The further I go into the back line to the Tomb Kings, the harder life will get. And Cetra even looking to take a bit more of a fight in the middle, though it looks like this is going in my favor. Capra Guard finally go down. One of the hardest units to kill in the game. Probably one of the best units for the Tomb King roster too. And for the battle right now, I would say things are still looking pretty good for us. Be'lakor is looking a little bit low, but Cetra's looking much worse for wear. Not to mention we also have healing of our own. Currently healing us quite a bit actually, which will be very nice for Be'lakor's survivability. We've procced his shield, so he should be fine. Though the armor debuff is actually going to be hurting him quite a bit. Those archers almost doing true damage to him. Quite scary, but Cetra looking extremely low. Both of them trying to push through onto each other. Cetra turning around, and will he serve? Will he serve? It looks like, yes, Be'lakor doesn't even need to attack him. Just looks at the poor guy and he's gonna fall apart. With the spears now moving on in, but we have this point very well secured. Nahakara warriors in the distance, trying to take a fight against my very elite units. We got Seekers, Fleshhounds, and Screamers. The unholy trifecta of Chaos mobility is going to be tearing these guys apart. Not a chance. Not a chance in the distance. And it looks like that's going to be it. It's going to be very hard for Tomb Kings to come back here. They basically only have a unit of Skeleton Spearmen. And it looks like we have just a very, very decent lead. We have almost double the units that the Tomb Kings have. But both army sizes are very small. So there is a chance that a big summon on the Tomb King side could potentially put us in a rough spot. Yeah, Be'lakor got taken to Pound Town a little bit. Those archers did a lot of damage, but he's still doing fairly well for himself. I believe at this point in the battle, I've been saving up for a fleshy abundance. So we're like very close here for a heal. But those archers, man, these blessed Legion of Petra, or Puck, we'll just call them Petra. They're gonna be doing a lot of damage here against Be'lakor. Their armor sundering is actually very useful for sort of the mid armor of Be'lakor, and it's gonna be pretty scary. Another volley loosing against them. He's down to 1000 HP, actually on the verge of crumbling. We'll see if Be'lakor actually goes down. We are on triple cap territory now, so we've definitely won the game. But potentially the Tomb Kings will be able to take a victory, or a minor victory against Be'lakor. Ushopti are firing away. Be'lakor is really low. He dodges a sepulchral stalker volley, but the second volley comes on in, and he's looking pretty rough now. Oh, the voice crack. Oh man, my poor sickness. He's looking pretty rough. Barely not crumbling, but only at 200 HP. Will he go down? The crumbling of the archers are definitely making him a little bit tankier, but the Ushopti managed to snipe him out. And that's gonna be it for poor Be'lakor. Despite being rather tanky, he still bleeds. He still bleeds. If you're not careful, he will go down. And even to archers. I'm pretty sure the skeleton archers just got like a few thousand gold value. But the game's gonna be over. We're far too close to victory tickets. And even though a unit of skeleton horsemen is gonna be moving into the back, it's not gonna capture nearly fast enough. And there we go. The battle is over. That's gonna be it, guys. GG. A solid 10 wins today. Very fun win farm day today. Hope you guys had a wonderful time. I'll see if I can grab a few more. Hopefully we can finally start streaming live, because then we can do like a live stream with Turin. Get a whole ton of matches with him, take suggestions from the glorious chat that is you guys. And then it should be a dandy old time. Yeah. Right now I actually do feel better. It's mostly I just have a cough, but I'm not suffering like it was a few days ago. So, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you want to buy DLCs on any of the factions you've seen today, you can get them for sale on Fanatical. There's links below. Gotta advertise that just in case anybody's thinking of buying. It's like 20% off, so pretty good deal. And I think that's it. Yeah, tune in like probably next week when I have enough to stream another wind farming game. Peace.